Now, as much as I like the early MiG-29s in this game, there's no denying that they are incredibly average, right? They're not absolute dog shit, but they're not that great either, at least not when you compare them to things like the F-16A models, which are, as far as I know, still one of the best dogfighters in the game. The F-18 as well, which got newly added, which is a absolute monster in the slow speed fight, as well as like Mirage 2000s and F-14s constantly spamming Phoenixes at you. It can feel very overwhelming when you start playing this in sim, and you're up against all of these aircraft, and you essentially just, you know, gotta hope that you're up against people that are significantly less skilled than you are. And that's not me just like being dramatic or anything. Apart from the two R27 ERs, this thing has basically zero tricks up its sleeve. And the ERs, while they're very good, I would still rather have 4 Sparrows over 2 ERs given the choice. Then you get the R60s, which would definitely rather choose an exploding star in another galaxy than the actual target that you fired the thing at. Not to mention the flight performance on them is significantly worse than that of the AIM-9L, meaning that a lot of the time, they're not really going to work in a dogfight, which means you need to have the flight performance in order to get into a position where you can get a gun kill, which this plane also is kind of lacking in. Then you also get the SPF-15 RWR, which just... it gives you information, but it's a lot less information than what the American RWRs give you. And last and definitely least, we have the infamous N001 radar, which we all know and love from the Su-27 series of planes. So, why am I flying this incredibly average plane? Well, the truth is, really, it's just I wanted to play some 12-7. And you can only really play red side for 12-7 because everyone's playing blue, because they have all the fun planes to play. And you don't really have any other options for the 12-7. I mean, Germany gets the other MiG-29A, which is basically the same plane. And then you get the Yak-141, which, while it definitely has its strengths, it also has its weaknesses, and it even gets 2 less missiles than the MiG-29. And when you're up against like an entire team, which you so often are at this kind of BR because you're always outnumbered, combat endurance really does start to play a role. And what's the best way to increase the amount of missiles that you have? Well, a second plane, of course, and that's why I asked Sin to come join me here and hopefully, you know, try and save the red team once again. Now, Sin is one of the better players. He's probably one of the best players, to be honest, when it comes to top tier. He also makes videos and has started streaming recently, so, you know, go over there, say hi for me, and if you like what you see, then, you know, maybe subscribe. I don't know, do what you want. So my aim for this video is to just go over some of the clips that I had in this game, explain what I'm doing, explain my thought process, stuff like that. And, you know, hopefully by the end of it, if you're not that experienced in Sim, you'll know a little bit more and you can help join the fight against Blue and help save Red at 12-7. That is my propaganda speech. Thank you very much for listening. So, in this clip here, I think I spotted about 4 enemies over in that direction there. And I'm tracking one on radar right now. He's still kind of far away, but then I see this other dude here who popped up fairly close to me. Now, I decided to go track him. I was going to try and hit him with an ER. You see, I try and block him there, but the radar just lets me down. So I decided to, alright, I'm going to try and fly over this like little hill here, get a little bit closer to him, because I don't think he, at least it didn't seem like he was reacting to me at the time. But you can see on the RWR though, there were pings coming from in front, and I really didn't want to just, you know, fly over there and then leave myself out in the open for all of them to engage. Because one thing you kind of have to learn when you're flying a plane that is subpar to a lot of the stuff you're going up against is you really can't just like run into a group of enemies. You really can't do it. You can't really do that in a good plane either. So I decided to go around the mountain, stay as low as I can. I'm getting locked up now by someone over there. I'm going to try and get, again, as low as I can into this little canyon. You're always looking out for terrain. Teammate calls out there's 2 enemies over there. And I'm guessing one of those is probably the dude that I got the pings from earlier. And judging by how far away they were earlier, I kind of make a guess, and it turns out that I did actually time it correctly. As I turn in here, I basically meet him straight away. We merge, I go into the vertical, I identify him as an F-20. Now this is kind of bad because the F-20 can outrate me. I'm also really heavy on fuel at this point. I've basically got a full tank. He goes up above me. I decide that I've not got the energy to go up there, and I really don't want to get into a slow speed fight with this kind of fuel on board, so I extend a little bit. I try and keep distance. I figure he's probably not going to hit that shot, but with any luck he's still going to pull in. Nose down, focus on getting the speed back, and we're back here at nearly 400 knots here. Yeah, now we just hit 400 knots. which is about 830 kph, and the ideal rate speed for the 29 is, you know, between 800 to 900 kph, so we're doing quite well here. Now I figured, alright, what other choice do I have? I'm just going to end up rate fighting this guy. By the fact that he took a missile shot from that kind of angle, I kind of deduced that this guy might not be amazing at dogfighting, so I figured, okay, I'm going to give the rate fight a chance. There wasn't really much else I could do at this point, and I could already see that I was slowly making my way around the circle and actually catching him. And I could also tell that he was quite slow just by the way he was like pulling the nose up. You can see the wingtip vortices every now and then as well, so he is pulling quite hard as well. You can see he's just raising the nose there a little bit and barely gaining any altitude. So I figured I'm in a pretty good spot here. I am a little bit fast here. I'm still getting used to the MiG-29 flight model at this point, but you know, it's not a problem. And he's really slow here. Have a bit of separation, so I decide now's the time. I pull him into the HUD, and I end up locking him on the radar. I put the thing on the thing, as GS likes to say, and end up shooting him down. And that was I was quite proud of that fight. I probably couldn't have done that though if I didn't have teammates around me, because like I said, there were 4 guys over in those mountains over there, and I believe I actually end up finding one of them. Yep, there he is on radar, and I end up shooting an ER at him. But if I was just by myself there, I probably would have gotten third partied. So if you do want to play red side, especially at 12.7, I do highly recommend you get at least one other person to fly with you. And you don't even need to fly in formation or anything like that, but just to have someone that keeps the enemy busy for you and, you know, gives you call outs and stuff like that, just so you have a little bit of information and you're just kind of aware of your surroundings and what's going on. I also have a Discord for this kind of stuff as well if you're looking for people to play with, so that's linked in the description if you're interested. Now, I was told that there was someone over in this direction coming towards us. I tried to find him on the IRST. The IRST let me down once again. It's not very good on the MiG-29, I've got to say. But we ended up flying past each other. He didn't see me, I don't think, and he ends up merging with, I believe it was Sin at this point. Now, I'm not going to respect the 1v1 at this point, so I decided to try and missile him down. Obviously, the R60 goes to flares, but end up getting him with the guns there. And then it turns out we also had a third teammate as well, looking the third party, and he actually ends up getting the kill there. So next clip here, you can see that again there are like 3 or 4 enemies in front of me. They're a couple of miles away, so I've still got some time to sort of think about how I want to play this. They've definitely seen me at this point, and as good as the R27 ER is, you can only ever fire it at one person at a time, of course, and again, with the R60s, with how easily flared they are, I really didn't want to get into like a 1v3 or even a 1v2 situation. You can see one of them was also locking me at this point as well, so I just thought, okay, screw it, I'm just going to reset a little bit. He's just fired at me there, the RWR is going crazy. I'm going to duck behind this mountain, break line of sight, and sort of come in from the side again, and do kind of like a pincer movement, I think it's called, or whatever. I might speed it up a little bit here because it did take a while and I think it's just a bit boring to watch, but now that whole maneuver allowed me to close the distance without, you know, it being in fear of getting shot at by radar guided missiles. So you can see he's right in front of me here. I decided to actually launch a little, you know, a cheeky little R27 there. Obviously it doesn't connect because he's way too smart for that and he ducks below the mountain. Now we're about to both come around this mountain, and I'm expecting a dogfight at this point, and he probably knows where I am as well. I kind of misjudged where he would be. I thought he'd be in front of me, but it turns out he's actually way over to the right of me, and we end up getting into a merge. Now, I see it's an F-16. The MiG-29's kryptonite, and he is in a much better energy state than I am at this point as well. I'm not in a bad energy state, but he had the altitude advantage, which means he can pull a little bit harder and bleed a bit more speed, but for some reason he just doesn't really do that and it just stays a neutral fight. He doesn't actually end up dropping a nose or anything, he kind of maintains altitude there. And at this point I'm just thinking, okay, let's just see if this guy's any good or whatever. I'm going to maintain my speed, I'm going to keep playing the rate fight game until I kind of figure out what I want to do here. And end up actually offsetting the circle here or something, I don't know, but we end up in a kind of like a head-on. I think he just bled a lot of his speed. And I figured, alright, it's now or never. I'm going to pull in, I'm going to go for the gunshot, and actually end up connecting the shots there. And I wasn't sure if he was dead at this point or not, so I didn't want to waste an ER, so I just decided to follow him with the R60 locked onto him for a little bit, but he ends up going into the mountains there. And that's just the thing, you know, sometimes you got to go for those kind of shots, and the more you do, the better at them you get. And it's always a really satisfying feeling when it connects. The F-16A really is the most difficult opponent for you to come up against at 12.7 in the MiG-29, because, or even anything really, just because with multipathing and stuff at this kind of BR, it's kind of easy to force dogfights, right, to force a merge. And the F-16A, like I said earlier, I think in the video, it is still one of the best dogfighters in the game. It outperforms the 29 in basically everything. Everything flight performance wise, it's just better. Gets a better radar, gets better RWR, gets better Fox 2s. The only thing it doesn't have is radar guided missiles, but like I said, you know, you can always force a dogfight at SBR, so it doesn't really matter all that much. It's a nice quality of life thing, but I'd much rather have the flight performance, the Fox 2s, the radar, the RWR, you know, than just two measly Fox 1s, so yeah. Now here I actually ran into the first F-18 in this match, and now I know the F-18 has quite a lot of missiles, so I used my last ER here to just kind of get him defensive and stop him from spamming his the Sparrows at me there. I figured he's probably quite heavy on fuel as well, so if I can get to the merge, it might not be that terrible. I'm on about half a tank, so it's not too bad for me. And I know the F-18 bleeds a lot of speed quite quickly, especially at these kind of altitudes. So pick a spot in the mountain where I think he's going to be. I come over it, wasn't too far off. We merge. I opt to go for the one circle here because I know that if he's going to miss the head on here after the first pass here, he's probably going to opt for the two circle and just instinctively pull to my 6, which he does. And at this point he is incredibly slow, or he's going to bleed a lot of speed to do that maneuver. I'm still fairly fast here, I've got a bit of altitude to play with as well, and you can see I'm just gaining so much position on him here. He's trying to drop the nose, but he's run out of space now. He's almost going to crash into that mountain there, which forces him to sort of move over. You see how much AOA he's pulling there just to avoid crashing. But I'm behind him now, it's basically over. I fire the R60, it misses, and I end up getting him with the gun there. So that's basically how you deal with F-18s. You go into the horizontal rate fight, because then it leaves them without altitude to sort of play with, and you just bleed them of energy, and when the time is ready, then you pull them into the HUD and do what needs to be done. On the opposite end, if you are in an F-18 and you're fighting a MiG-29 that's adamant at rate fighting, I would recommend for you to try and get them to do vertical loops. This is something that I found when I was dueling Sinful a couple of weeks ago. It's just a little bit easier for the F-18 to sort of sit inside the turn circle, and it also gives it a little bit of altitude to play with. But with the horizontal fight, it's kind of just a losing battle for the F-18 all across the board. So, last clip here, I'm currently looking at a Phantom, which gets to fight MiG-29s in this matchmaker, which is super fair if you ask me. Now, I didn't fire at him because Sinful said that he basically has them, and I only had like one R60 left. So I was going to go for the dude that was over this mountain here. Friendly called him out, so I decided, right, I'm going to go for this dude. I'm light on fuel. I can go for a dogfight. Let's do it. There he is. He sees me as well. We merge. I missed my gunshots in the head on there. Now, I had a bit of speed on me, so I decided to go vertical. Now, going vertical against an F-18 on the first turn isn't always a bad idea, especially if you have a bit of speed there. Now we're in the head-on. I have the R60 lock. I'm not going to fire it yet. I'm going to try and surprise him so he doesn't think to flare it or whatever, but I think he did end up flaring it there. Didn't leave it late enough. Now, I went vertical again after me telling you not to go vertical against F-18s, but you can see how slow he is. And that's the only reason I went vertical, is because he didn't have enough speed to follow me up there, so I can kind of just drop on top of him here, take my time, put the thing on the thing, and squeeze the thing. And he ends up going up in flames. And that was pretty much the last, I guess, like, interesting clip that I had for this match here. I just kind of end up going back to base. But yeah, what can I say? I mean, 12.7 in Sim right now, due to the fact that you don't get mixed teams or anything like that, is kind of, yeah, it can be a bit of cock and ball torture, but like I said, just get a group of friends together or whatever. Just one other person makes a huge difference. Look at me absolutely butt standing, by the way. And you can make it work, but if you're up against competent opponents, just be ready to lose a lot of fights, especially a lot of 1v1s, because there's just not going to be a lot that you can really do. If you're flying by yourself, and you don't want to join my Discord for whatever reason, I can't think why you wouldn't. But if you're flying by yourself, I'd say just stick to hit and run tactics. Use the two good things of your playing, which is the R27ER, get a kill, and then just run away, hide in a mountain or something, right? Obviously stay away from flat maps like Denmark or whatever, which makes it a lot harder. Final score here was 15-0 for me. Sin went 20-2. I think he ran out of fuel once as well. And we ended up doing quite well as a team, on the team as a whole. Quite good KDs overall. We did end up losing the match because we weren't really doing any objectives. But it's also kind of hard to do when you don't have any multi-role aircraft at this BR. So yeah, that's just something you have to live with. But anyway, thanks very much for watching, guys, and I hope to see you in the next video. Cheers.